Ever needed to use a document from here? The U.S., somewhere else in the world, maybe proving your income for a visa, thinking about retiring to Portugal, perhaps, or showing your earnings history for residency over in France. What seems like a really simple printout here, like your U.S. Social Security statement, well, that suddenly become a surprisingly big hurdle.
Yeah, that's the rabbit hole we're jumping down today. We want to understand why a U.S. Social Security statement isn't just automatically accepted abroad. And, what are these sometimes complicated steps you have to take to make it officially recognized in foreign countries?
And often, navigating that whole complication leads you to a term that, frankly, a lot of people aren't familiar with, the apostille. It's really the key. It's often the legally required certification you need to make that U.S. document valid internationally. Understanding what it is and maybe more importantly, how to get it efficiently, that's pretty essential for anyone planning a life outside the U.S. Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive, and we're drawing from an article focused on this exact process for American expats and residents, is to really dig into why. Why does a document like your Social Security statement need this special authentication? Then we'll try to uncover the layers of the process itself, because it sounds like that's where it can get tricky, and finally look at resources that, well, according to our source, can actually simplify things quite a bit. Okay, let's start with the core problem. Why can't I just, print my Social Security statement from the SSA website, stick it in my bag, and hand it over to some official in, Madrid?
That really is the fundamental issue, isn't it? A public document issued by the government of one country, like your Social Security statement from the U.S. Social Security Administration. It just doesn't have automatic legal standing or, frankly, trust in another country's legal system or by their officials. Every country has its own way of verifying documents are legit.
Right. And your Social Security statement, that's a pretty important document here. It's your official record of earnings, right? Your contributions, your estimated future benefits. It's proof of a big chunk of your financial history.
Exactly. So when you need that document to, say, prove your financial stability for a visa or maybe demonstrate you're eligible for a pension or for other legal stuff abroad, the country you're dealing with needs some assurance. They need to know the document is legitimate, that it wasn't faked, and that the signatures or seals on it are real. That's the whole point of international authentication.
Okay, so how do countries solve this trust issue? Because I'm imagining traveling to every single country's embassy to get documents verified. That sounds like an absolute nightmare.
Well, it definitely used to be. And for countries that aren't part of a specific treaty, it still can be pretty complex. But for many, thankfully, there's an international agreement. It's called the Hague Apostille Convention, and it was established way back in 1961.
The Apostille Convention. Okay, that sounds like the key we were talking about earlier. So what exactly is an apostille in the context of this convention?
Think of it like a standardized certificate, or maybe a stamp. And it's recognized by all the countries who are members of this convention. For those member countries, the apostille basically replaces that older, much more complicated embassy legalization process you mentioned. It's a single official certification. It verifies the authenticity of the signature, the seal, and even the job title of the person or authority who issued the original document. It essentially tells the receiving country, this U.S. document, it's legitimate.
Okay, so it's like an internationally recognized stamp of approval for your document. That makes sense. But who actually runs into this specific need? Who needs an apostilled Social Security statement? Is it common?
It's actually surprisingly common for certain groups, especially people navigating international moves or finances. Our source material points out several key scenarios. American expats living abroad, for instance. They frequently need it. Why? Well, as proof of their U.S. earnings for things like qualifying for or claiming foreign pensions, sometimes dealing with local social benefit systems, or even for tax purposes in their new country.
Right, because their U.S. earnings history can impact things globally.
Precisely. Also, think about retirees planning to move abroad. If they're applying for residency or a specific retirement visa, many countries require concrete proof of a stable, reliable income stream before they grant long-term residency. And the Social Security statement is a primary way to show that U.S. income.
So it's not just about actually receiving your U.S. Social Security benefits while you're abroad, but it's about proving you have that income in the first place for the visa or residency requirements.
Exactly. It's essential proof of financial stability, of your financial wherewithal. And this also applies to people who are claiming foreign pensions, where they might need to show their complete work history, or coordinating benefits under those U.S. Social Security totalization agreements we mentioned earlier.
Ah, yeah, the totalization agreements. Can you just quickly remind us what those are again?
Sure, think of them as like bilateral deals the U.S. has with over 30 countries now. They help coordinate Social Security coverage and benefits for people who've worked in both countries. They stop you from being taxed twice on the same earnings, and they can help people qualify for benefits based on combined work histories from both places. So if you're coordinating benefits under one of these agreements, you absolutely need your U.S. record validated.
Got it. That makes sense. And our source actually lists some specific countries where an apostilled Social Security statement is frequently required.
Yeah.
Where are people typically running into this need?
Yeah, the article points to places like France, Germany, Italy, Greece, Indonesia, the Philippines, and quite a few in Latin America too, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil. And the uses vary a bit. For example, in France, you might need it for long-term residency permits or maybe pension transfers. In Italy, it's often mandatory for their popular elective residency visa for retirees. They want clear proof of income, like Social Security.
Okay, so specifically for showing you have the financial means in Italy.
Exactly. Greece also uses it for their golden visa program and pension transfers. Over in Southeast Asia, places like the Philippines, especially for their special resident retirees visa, the SRRV, they require it for verifying government pensions. And throughout Latin America, it's pretty key for various residency applications, for legalizing the So yeah, it's clear this document has some pretty significant global implications for a lot of people.
Okay, the why is definitely clearer now. It's all about making that U.S. income official and trusted for things like visas, residency, pension claims, you name it. But that brings us squarely to the how. Our source implies this process isn't as simple as just, popping down to the local post office. What are the actual steps involved in getting this federal document apostilled?
Right. The article lays out a multi-step process, and yeah, this is where the potential headaches can really start for individuals trying to do it themselves. Step one is actually obtaining the correct version of your Social Security statement.
The correct version. So you can't just print it from the website like I asked before.
No, and that's the critical detail that trips so many people up. For international authentication, for the apostille, you cannot use a standard online printout. You absolutely must get a certified, signed, and sealed copy directly from the Social Security Administration itself.
Oh, okay. So it needs that official SSA seal and signature to even be eligible for the apostille later on. How do you request that specific version?
You can usually do this by calling the SSA. Their main number is 1-800-772-1213. Or you could visit a local SSA office. Sometimes you might be able to do it through your online My Social Security account. But you have to be able to specify the need for a certified, signed, and sealed copy specifically for international use. The key thing is being absolutely clear with the SSA that this is for an apostille, because they need to provide a very specific type of official copy.
Got it. Get the right certified copy first. Okay, what's step two?
Step two is getting the apostille itself. And here's the next really crucial point from our source. Unlike a lot of state-level documents, think birth certificates, maybe diplomas, which get apostilled by the Secretary of State in the state where they were issued, the Social Security statement is a federal document. That means the apostille must be issued by the U.S. Department of State Office of Authentications. And they're in Washington, D.C.
Ah, that federal distinction changes everything, doesn't it? So you can't just go down to the Massachusetts Secretary of State's office even if you live there.
Exactly right. It completely bypasses any state-level authentication. It has to go directly to the federal level. And this is often where the major bottleneck, the real difficulty, arises for individuals trying to handle this themselves. The standard way to submit your certified Social Security statement to the U.S. Department of State for the apostille, as described in the source, is by mailing it to their office in D.C.
Okay, hold on. Sending a vital certified document into a government office by mail. I can't imagine that's a fast turnaround. What kind of waiting time are we actually talking about here?
You're hitting on the main pain point right there. The source explicitly highlights the standard processing time for the U.S. Department of State Office of Authentications, and it's a potentially crippling 5 to 10 weeks.
Wait, did you say weeks? 5 to 10 weeks? That's potentially over 2 months. If you're on some kind of deadline for a visa interview, or maybe trying to finalize buying property that's tied to your residency, or literally trying to move your life abroad, a 2-month minimum wait for a single document stamp isn't just a hurdle. That sounds like a potential showstopper.
Right.
That kind of delay could derail everything.
It absolutely can, and unfortunately it often does. The standard federal process is just known for being slow, and for someone needing this document quickly, it presents a really significant challenge. Step 3, of course, is eventually receiving your apostilled document back after that lengthy processing time. The source does mention you can arrange for expedited return shipping, which, frankly, after waiting that long, you'd almost certainly want to do.
So the standard path, while necessary because it's a federal document, sounds incredibly painful. Get the specific SSA copy, mail it to D.C., potentially wait 5 to 10 weeks, then get it shipped back. That's a huge investment of time and, let's be honest, stress. This definitely makes the idea of finding a smoother path sound very appealing. So, okay, knowing how complex and potentially delayed that standard process through the U.S. Department of State can be, is there a way around it? Is there a way to navigate this federal authentication process more efficiently? Our source seems to hint there is.
Yes, exactly. This is where the article introduces the alternative, using what's called an apostille service. This is presented as a way to basically bypass that standard lengthy mail-in process for step 2, actually getting the apostille from the Department of State.
And the source specifically points to Massachusetts Apostille Services as a resource for this. How do they help simplify what sounds like a really difficult federal process?
Well, according to the source, a service like Massachusetts Apostille Services acts as the expert intermediary, right? They specialize in handling both state and federal apostille requests. That's key because, as we discussed, the Social Security statement needs that federal authentication from D.C. They understand the specific requirements of the Department of State Office of Authentications.
So they handle the actual submission part. They take your document and deal with the D.C. office on your behalf.
That's exactly right. And the main benefit they offer, the one that directly addresses that massive 5 to 10 week wait time we were just talking about, is speed. The source states that with Massachusetts Apostille Services, you can expedite your request down to a processing time of just 5 to 15 business days.
Okay, hold on. That is a dramatic difference. We're talking 5 to 15 business days versus potentially 5 to 10 weeks. That collapses a potential multi-month delay into something like 2 to 3 weeks. That's a game changer for someone on a tight timeline.
It truly is. Their service, as it's described, focuses on a reliable, hassle-free process. They aim to ensure your document is correctly submitted to the Department of State and processed far, far quicker than the standard individual mail-in option. The source also highlights their decades of experience, which suggests they really know how to navigate that bureaucracy effectively. They help make sure it's done right the first time, without wasting your time or money.
And you mentioned earlier that expats needing this could be anywhere in the world. How does a Massachusetts-based service help someone who isn't physically in Massachusetts, or maybe not even in the U.S. anymore?
That's a really crucial point they make. The source emphasizes their nationwide and global service. They can process apostille requests for individuals living in all 50 states or, anywhere else in the world. And a really significant benefit they offer, apparently, is the ability to process the application remotely. You can often just upload a digital copy of your certified Social Security statement to their secure portal, and they basically handle the rest. Then, once it's processed by the Department of State, they can ship the apostille document overseas using their discounted FedEx and UPS rates.
Wow, okay, the ability to handle this remotely and then ship globally, that's huge for expats. That removes a massive logistical barrier. And what about the cost for this kind of accelerated expert service? Is it prohibitive?
The source indicates their apostille services start at $150. Now, obviously, that's an additional cost on top of any, minimal government fees. But it's positioned as a pretty affordable price when you consider the significant time savings, the convenience, the expertise, and frankly, the reduced stress compared to trying the standard process yourself and facing those potentially months-long delays.
Right. So if you're facing this need, getting your U.S. Social Security statement apostilled for use, a broad understanding that it requires federal authentication and typically involves that 5 to 10 week wait, it really makes the benefits offered by a service like Massachusetts Apostille Services seem like a very practical, maybe even necessary option. We're talking dramatically faster processing, remote handling, global shipping. They help ensure your crucial document is valid and accepted abroad quickly and efficiently. And the source provides specific contact information for Massachusetts Apostille Services, right, if you need this done or want to learn more.
Yes, exactly. You can call them for assistance, or they offer free consultation at 978-424-4629. They also have a physical office location listed in the article. It's 1215 Main St., Unit 115 in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, 01876. So you could stop by if you're in the area, but remember, they serve clients nationwide and globally, often completely remotely. And their website is massachusettsapostilleservices.com. You can find more info there or even book their service online.
So we've really taken a deep dive into what seems like maybe a niche problem, but it's clearly vital for many people pursuing international lives, getting that U.S. Social Security statement authenticated for use abroad. We've uncovered why that special apostille is necessary. We walked through the standard, often time-consuming federal process via the U.S. Department of State, and we highlighted how services like Massachusetts Apostille Services can dramatically speed up and simplify that whole process, making it much more manageable for anyone, really anywhere.
Yeah, getting that official authentication, it's absolutely non-negotiable for things like claiming pensions, securing residency or visas, handling other critical legal or financial matters overseas. Without the proper apostille, that key U.S. document might just be, well, a useless piece of paper to foreign authorities.
Thinking about this level of detail and the specific hoops you have to jump through for just one document like your Social Security statement, it really raises a broader question for anyone living or even just planning a life across borders. In our world today, which is so interconnected, how many other seemingly everyday U.S. documents, maybe your birth certificate, a marriage license, power of attorney, even educational transcripts, might require this same complex level of international authentication? And what does the need to authenticate all these foundational documents truly mean for the practicalities, the planning required to build or maybe retire to a life abroad?
It certainly underscores that living internationally means navigating very different administrative landscapes, doesn't it? And as our source demonstrates today, being aware of these specific requirements, document by document, and knowing that there are specialized resources available, like the one we discussed, to help you navigate them efficiently, well, that seems absolutely critical for a smooth transition or just continuing your life abroad.